Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Paris for all people coming from abroad. I am Lamia Kamal Shawi. I'm the director of the OECD Center for Entrepreneurship, SMEs, Regions, and Cities. And I'm very pleased to welcome you all to this fourth OECD Roundtable on Smart Cities and Inclusive Growth. I would like to start by thanking the State Secretary, Dr. Rolf Bossinger, whose ministry is supporting today's roundtable. We have also Renata Mitterberg with us here today. Welcome, Renate. I would like also to thank the German Development Cooperation Agency, GIZ. Peter and Sandra are online, I think. I would also like to thank our distinguished speakers, Jader Barbao Filho, Minister of Cities of Brazil, who will deliver soon a video message. Of course, I would like to welcome and thank Kazuko Kori, the mayor of Sendai in Japan. Madame Kori is a member of the OECD Coalition of Champion Mayors for Inclusive Growth Initiative. And I would like to thank Guido Rink, Deputy Mayor of Emmen in the Netherlands and European Committee of the Regions Rapporteur on AI. So today we're going to talk about digital technologies. Digital technologies, as we know, are already shaping our cities. They are making our cities healthier by making e-healthcare services possible to support vulnerable residents, such as in the city of Takamatsu in Japan, but also in Chicago, in Kentucky, in the United States. They are making them healthier as well. They are making them more accessible by improving public transport and managing traffic flows. I give you an example. Israel, which has established a digital platform to understand and optimize traffic flows, which is expected to reduce congestion by over 30% between now and 2028. Digital technology are making cities safer by alerting citizens to threats. Maybe the best example is the city of Kiev in Ukraine, a city which is in war. There, the Kiev digital application is being used by over 80% of the population. And digital technology are making our cities more greener by cutting carbon emission. This is the case of Seoul, Copenhagen, and London, and in many other cities where building energy management systems have been adopted to decarbonize public buildings. But this is fortunately only the beginning for smart cities. According to the WIoT, the global Internet of Things market in smart cities is expected to more than double over 5 years, from $300 billion in 2021 to over $650 billion by 2026. So a huge market. And the rapid uptake of artificial intelligence is considerably transforming the tools and options available to policymakers. We are indeed expecting amazing changes in the year to come with AI. The global AI market in smart cities is forecast to reach $163 billion by 2030, according to data that we found from the Future data set. So it's really promising. It's a lot of money, but there are major barriers. We know that the solutions are groundbreaking and revolutionary, but still many of those solutions are novel and experimental. This is why it's so important to share a lesson about what works and what doesn't work and why it doesn't work through events like today's roundtable. I think Aziza told me we are around 70 here in the room, but we have many more. How many you said in online? Around 100 people following us online. So it's going to be a very promising day. Since 2019, through the OECD program on smart cities, we have been able to identify clear common challenges, but also some very innovative solutions. And we want to make sure that all these solutions are well known and disseminated widely. Let me maybe touch on 3 typical challenges cities are facing in their smart cities journey to help start today's discussion. First, the challenge of putting in place the basics. I mean, the infrastructure. I was just talking about large cities like Seoul, Copenhagen, Chicago, or Kiev. But the reality is that many cities still do not have the right digital infrastructure. So there are wide digital gaps within countries. We tend to talk a lot about urban-rural gaps, but we have also to talk about the gaps between large and small cities within countries. And we are measuring these gaps in the OECD. I give you an example. In Italy, in 2022, the city of Turin benefited from internet speeds 73% above the national average, while in Pisa, in Tuscany, internet speeds were 14% below the national average. So there are huge regional disparities and disparities between cities. Second typical challenge, financing smart cities projects against a backdrop of fiscal consolidation following major crisis and much higher interest rates almost everywhere in most countries. Finding the fiscal room has become even more difficult. In the US, for instance, 1/3 of smart cities projects fail to scale up due to many barriers, among them, of course, the lack of finance. A third challenge that I would like to mention is the need to strengthen data governance. Cities are generating more data than they can handle, actually. A piece of research that we found suggests that only 2% of new data produced in 2020 was saved and retained in 2021 in cities. And our report, we published last year, a report, Smart City Data Governance. I really invite you to have a look. Very interesting report, which argued that cities need to proactively own and manage that data, setting clear policies about how data is stored, how data is accessed, and how data is used. And those systems need to be, of course, aligned with other levels of government to enable those solutions to be interoperable. These three challenges, infrastructure, financing, and governance, they are particularly tough for many cities, especially for smaller cities who most often lack the right information, the right capacity, the right skills, and of course, the financing to overcome all those barriers. So what are the possible way forward? This is what we're going to discuss today. The good news is that more and more cities are finding many new and inspiring ways to overcome these barriers. And I will give you just a couple of examples that we have identified in our work. In 2023, the city of Utrecht in the Netherlands started a project to provide access to more than 4,000 addresses to ultra-fast internet. And in the same year, 2023, Colombia launched the Colombia Potencia Digital. Potencia, by the way, is written potence and then AI. They did that to guarantee uninterrupted internet connectivities in cities to boost development in areas such as tourism, agriculture, and healthcare. And to raise finance, many cities are developing new public-private partnership. This is the case of Berlin's partnership with Siemens to develop Siemensstadt, a new AI-driven business and residential district that will accommodate around 33,000 people. And Siemens will contribute 750 million euros to this project. And to strengthen data governance, we can take also inspiration from Vienna Data's excellent strategy. This strategy capitalizes on the city's data asset to enable the construction of the digital twin of the city. And I think later today, we will hear how Utrecht in the Netherlands is deploying a similar approach. So dear participants, colleagues, smart city policy are needed to make a reality. And smart policies are only possible by working together across countries and across levels of government. That's why we're so happy to see representatives from both cities and national government. I'm therefore very glad to see as well that we have many other organizations with us. They are going to share their insight. Many organizations are working on this subject as well. Hopefully we can advance on this very important agenda to unlock the potential of digitalization to transform cities of all sizes. We always make the point about the cities of all sizes to make them happier, healthier, and more productive places. I wish you a very productive meeting. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Lamia, and welcome to all of you. My name is Aziza Akmouche, and I'm heading the City Division in the CFE Directorate led by Lamia, and it's my pleasure now to invite you to watch a short video message by our counterparts hosting this meeting and represented here by Dr. Rolf Bossinger, State Secretary of the Federal Ministry for Housing, Urban Development and Building of Germany.
Dear Lamia Kamal Chaoui, dear country representatives, dear contributors and attendees of today's roundtable, both present and online, on behalf of the German Federal Ministry of Housing, Urban Development and Building, I warmly welcome you to the 4th OECD Roundtable on Smart Cities and Inclusive Growth. Today's topic, Shaping Smart Cities of All Sizes, recognize the variety of conditions and challenges our countries and communities are facing when it comes to digitalization. It also suits the German context with our relatively decentralized urbanization structure and the context of many other OECD member countries which have relatively low prevalence of large cities. While it is often the biggest cities and metropolises that capture most of the attention when it comes to the major transitions we face, we should remember that globally it is in fact small and medium-sized cities and towns where most of the future urban growth will be happening. And it is sometimes this very size and context which can refocus us on the need to develop data-driven solutions, not as an end in themselves, but really according to local conditions, possibilities, and needs. Our ambitious funding program for model projects Smart Cities reflects all this. We support both financially and structurally 73 model projects all over Germany, including cities of all sizes, from small rural communities to mid-sized municipalities and large cities. 5 years into the program, our model projects have already developed a large portfolio of smart city solutions, which are then made available for replication in all our 11,000 municipalities in the country. Guided by the principle of public money, public gold, this is facilitated by the fact that all developed software solutions are made available on the German public repository Open Code. Currently, we are adjusting our efforts for a next phase where we build on this foundation of developed measures for common good-oriented smart cities made in Germany. Under the lead of my ministry, the step-by-step plan, Smart Cities and Regions, was recently adopted. It was drafted with the participation of civil society, science, private sector, and the federal, state, and local authorities. The goal is to give further guidance to the breadth of municipalities in Germany on how to scale progress toward smart cities. The step-by-step plan establishes a framework that promotes intermunicipal cooperation and provides access to knowledge and digital solutions for all German municipalities, regardless of size. Moreover, we are constantly seeking international knowledge exchange on smart cities through our international Smart Cities Network and the associated program of #Connected in Europe, where several European smart city tandems were formed, which are present today here as well. For it is only through mutual learning and cooperation that we can unlock our full potential when addressing such complex topics. Therefore, I invite you all to continue engaging with the International Smart Cities Network so that we can enrich each other with our good practices. There has never been more digital and technological opportunity than there is today. We do have many technical tools at hand to shape the digitalization of urban and regional development for all municipalities. And in addition, the field of artificial intelligence is progressing rapidly, opening up new use cases for urban development. The agenda of today's OECD Roundtable is a fantastic opportunity exchange on all this, to understand our common status quo and to think about how to translate with good governance the many amazing technologies into better life quality for our citizens. I wish you all fruitful discussions and a productive exchange of ideas. May the connections you make here today pave the way to our joint journey towards smart, sustainable, and livable cities and regions. Thank you again to our esteemed hosts and partners. Thank you to all the valuable speakers and panelists of today, and to the entire audience of your kind attention.
Thank you very much, State Secretary, to the Federal Ministry and to all the team that has worked very hard on the road to shaping this session. And that also gives me the opportunity to thank our member countries in Korea and Japan that have also been long-standing partners and champions of this work on smart cities within the OECD. So with this, we'll now move to the first session. But before that, by way of background, and because in this new normal, this is a hybrid meeting, I'd like to share very brief housekeeping rules. We have, as I said, dozens and dozens of colleagues and stakeholders online that I invite to signal themselves through the Q&A function if they wish to ask questions to the panelists. We are collecting them here, and we'll find a way in the discussion to also engage and try to be as inclusive as we can with colleagues online. I also mentioned that this meeting will be held in English, but we'll have a little window this morning where interpretation from Japanese to English will be provided. So I just invite you all to check that you do have headsets either here in front of you at the bottom if you're not used to the OECD, or on the side of your chair. And we'll shortly hear from our esteemed guest here, the mayor of Sendai. We are aiming to finish by COB today. There will be a cocktail to which all of you are invited. And if we go to the next slide, you'll have a quick overview for those online in particular of the sessions we will be looking at today. We'll keep in the back of our mind the issues that were flagged not only by Lamia in terms of infrastructure, financing, and governance, but also by the State secretary in terms of the need to go more granular to understand the specifics of cities of different sizes where the uptake of digitalization is not the same, but also the capacity to handle the transition is asymmetric. We'll try for each of the sessions to have a combination of a keynote and a moderated panel with, at the end, I hope, sufficient time for discussion. So for those who are not familiar with the OECD when it comes to the panels and you wish to take the floor, you just raise your flag this way and you leave it this way until you are given the floor, after which we invite you to put it back. That way I don't have to go back to logistics later. And with that, my pleasure to now move to the first session. This is very much about setting the scene, understanding the state of play of digitalization and its uptake in cities of different sizes, also delve into some of the barriers that these cities of different sizes are facing and how public policies can set up the enabling environment that is needed to accelerate the transition and keep in mind this people-centered smart cities approach that our opening remarks flagged. And with that, it's really a pleasure to first invite our esteemed guest, Mayor Kazuko Kori of Sendai, who is an eminent member of the OECD's Champion Mayors Initiative, which, as many of you know, gathers about 60, 70 mayors that put the fight against inequality and that drive inclusive growth at the center of their agenda. We're very grateful for the mayor's presence, who will set the scene about the efforts and the initiative that she has been implementing in Sendai to precisely maximize the transformative power of digital technologies. As I said, the mayor will intervene in Japanese. Thank you very much for being with us. You have the floor.
ありがとうございます。ご紹介いただきました。仙台市長の郡と申します。キーノートスピーカーとしてお招きをいただきまして、大変光栄に思っております。私からは、仙台市が取り組んでいるスマートシティの形成に向けて、どのような施策なのかということについてお話をさせていただきます。
Let me check, Mayor. Let us just check that we do get the... Can the interpreters speak?
Sorry.ご紹介いただきました仙台市長の郡でございます。本日はキーノートスピーカーとしてお招きをいただきましたこと、大変光栄に思っております。
This one. It's okay. It's good. Go ahead.
私からは仙台市の取り組みについてお話をさせていただきます。まず、仙台市の概況についてお話をいたします。仙台市は都市機能、自然環境が調和した街並みが広がっていて、森の都というふうに呼ばれています。ご承知のように、2011年3月11日、東日本大震災が発生をいたしまして、巨大地震と津波で本市の沿岸部を中心に大きな被害があったところです。で、この間、国内外の多くの皆様方からご支援を賜りまして、本当にありがとうございます。改めてこの席をお借りいたしまして御礼を申し上げます。復興にあたりましては、これまで培ってきた市民力を力としながら、森の都に防災への配慮の視点を盛り込んだ防災環境都市としてのまちづくりを市民の皆さんと共に作り上げてまいりました。また、2015年には本市において第3回国連防災世界会議が開催をされまして、仙台防災枠組みが採択されたほか、以降 G7 における各種会合を開催してまいりました。昨年は先ほどご紹介ございましたけれども、国連で、仙台防災枠組みの中間発表をさせていただきましたり、またブリュッセルで開かれました OECD のチャンピオンメアミーティングに私自身が参加させていただきまして、防災環境都市仙台としての取り組みをご紹介いたしました。で、今日はですね、 このような流れで、ここにございます1、2、3、スマートシティに関する取り組みをご紹介してまいります。まず、仙台市では、仙台の未来を切り開くスマートシティのフロンティアとなることを目指して、地元の東北大学や60社を超える民間企業と連携をして、さまざまな分野においてチャレンジングな取り組みに挑む仙台、東北大学スマートフロンティア協議会を設立いたしました。仙台市、東北大学、民間企業の産学官の連携により、事例を積み重ねながら、市民ニーズに即し、データ連携を前提とした最先端サービスの創出と、それに伴う規制改革の提案に向けて取り組んできているところです。また、国の交付金を受けながら、次のスライドでご紹介いたします2つの取り組みをはじめ、さまざまな取り組みを実施しております。では、具体的な取り組みです。1つ目、診療カーによるオンライン診療でございます。医療通信機器を搭載した診療カーに看護師が乗りまして、患者のもとに訪問いたします。その診療カーと医師をオンラインでつないで診療を行います。患者と医師の双方が受け入れやすい、より質の高いオンライン診療を目指して、本市スタートアップや東北大学とともに、オンラインでも音質の良い聴診器の開発などに取り組みながら、地方における医師不足などの課題へ対応し、持続可能な医療提供体制の確保を進めています。で、この取り組みは、国のイベントでも紹介されたり、また国内各都市からの問い合わせ、あるいは視察依頼も多くございまして、地域への波及効果も大きい取り組みです。次は、人流や地域のイベントといった街のデータを可視化して連携することにより、都心の回遊性向上を図る取り組みでございます。人流データは、仙台市の中心部商店街や道路、公園にかけて設置した AI 技術を活用したセンサーにより、常時通行量を測定、計測しています。2023年の中心部で実施したイベントでは、デジタルマップ上で混雑度をリアルタイムに表示する取り組みを実施いたしました。このような取り組みを活用しながら、大規模イベント時の安全対策など、安全安心な周遊につなげています。2つ目は、防災テックについての説明です。防災テックは最先端のテクノロジーで新たな防災ソリューションを生み出すために、さまざまなステークホルダーが関わる取り組みです。2023年に、防災、テクノロジー、ビジネスの各分野が融合し、新たな解決策を生み出す場になることを目指したプラットフォームを設立いたしまして、ステークホルダーの連携、また事業の創出を促進しています。気候変動や災害が増加する現代において、防災分野だけではこれまで解決できなかったさまざまな問題を、防災、テクノロジー、ビジネスの各分野の人や企業が融合することにより解決できると考えています。で、これは世界の災害リスク削減に寄与するとともに、プラットフォームに参加する企業の持続的成長にもつながるものと考えています。では、具体的な取り組みをご紹介いたします。仙台市では東日本大震災の際に、津波避難広報中の職員が犠牲となってしまったこと、既存の避難広報手段の多重化、補完の必要性を踏まえて、津波からの避難を呼びかけるための新たな広報手段といたしまして、津波避難広報ドローンの整備を行い、2022年10月から本格運用を開始いたしました。津波警報が発表されますと、それと同時に全自動でドローンが離陸飛行し、沿岸部を訪れている方に対して搭載するスピーカーから避難を呼びかける音声とサイレンを流すことにより、人の手を介さずに自動で避難広報を行います。これらは 自動運航のドローンにより津波避難広報を行うこと、および専用の LTE 通信の活用でドローンの制御等を行うこと、この2点において世界初の事例です。沿岸部の来訪者に対して効果的に津波避難広報を行うことができるようになりました。その他にも、これまでの災害の経験を生かし、企業のさまざまな実証実験を支援してまいりました。本年4月、次世代放射光施設ナノテラスが仙台市において稼働いたしました。これは国と地域、産と学が一体となって運用する新たな研究開発施設でして、物質の構造を10億分の1レベルで解析することができ、新しい機能を持つ材料やデバイスの開発、また創薬の研究開発等に貢献します。放射光施設といえば、ここ、パリのサクレ大学の中にも2007年に稼働したソレイユがございますが、私も昨年拝見させていただき、高い稼働率を誇っていることや、周辺に関連企業が集積している、いわゆるリサーチコンプレックスを形成していることなど、非常に参考になるお話を聞かせていただきました。ソレイユでも周辺にバイオや化粧品関連企業が集積しているように、仙台市においてもナノテラス周辺への関連産業集積を図るリサーチコンプレックス形成に向けた取り組みを進めています。ナノテラスは中心部からおよそ4キロの場所にあるのですが、これを専用のネットワーク回線で結びまして、仙台市内中心部にいながらナノテラスで測定したデータを分析することができる拠点をこの4月に設けました。今後も産学官の連携でさまざまな新事業の創出、そして、仙台都心も含めたリサーチコンプレックスの形成を推し進めてまいります。以上、仙台市のスマートシティに関する主な取り組みについてご紹介をさせていただきました。こうした取り組みを通じまして、グローバルな課題等に対応しながら、将来にわたって人々により良いサービスを提供して、誰もが住みやすいまちづくりを進めてまいります。私からの発表は以上でございます。ご清聴いただきましてありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Mayor, for what was a fascinating presentation. Not only the way you set the scene, going back to disaster as the entry point to recovery, resilience, and leveraging technology for that, but also showing the global profile of Sendai on these issues with the Sendai framework and the black box somehow of how you're thinking your city as a smart one with multi-stakeholder collaboration, very concrete sectoral applications on health, mobility, but also very concrete technologies that you've put forward and that also have at their core this triangle between industry, academia, and government. I think this is highly inspiring. Thank you very much. And I hope the panel will also echo some of these practices. We're now getting into a panel discussion, multi-stakeholder one with representatives from city administrations, but also from international organizations, from academia, with this idea that there's good things that we can identify, scale up, and copy from across different stakeholders. And I would like to start maybe with our representative from Romania. We're delighted to have with us Crina Dumitrescu. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you very much for being with us. You're the director of the Smart City program of the city of Alba Iulia in Romania, which we know is often cited actually as a smart city, where we've seen quite an uptake of digitalization in recent years, and would be very interested to hear from you, what were the drivers, the roots, let's say, of that transition, and what you see as the main highlights that could be of interest to our colleagues. You have the floor.
So first of all, hello to everybody. I'm honored to be part of this distinguished meeting. And also, I would like to say a few words about our city. And the main concept for our development is human resources and strategy resources. We cannot develop an intelligent city without these two pillars. So first of all, we aimed that our strategy to be an intelligent city, that's meant to be accessible, that's meant to be coherent and based on digitalized solution focused on citizen. Also, we like to be a green city with public services, efficient public services, based also on digital platform and green technology. Also to be a competitive city, creative, based on education platform. And also because we are the sole capital of Romania, we like to be a cultural and touristical destination. It's an objective for us, also based on digitalized solution in this field. So our development, our strategy, it was to focus on European funds, because we are a city with around 70 inhabitants. We are small to medium. And we have a roadmap, very interesting also for Romania, because we are not based on a very large budget. So between 2007 and 2023, we succeeded to attract around 330 million euros. That means 500 euros by citizen. It is a large amount for this for a medium city, and this means 50 times local budget. And this money, this funding, it was directed to mobility, public mobility, urban mobility, also for smart public lighting, and also for intelligent public transport, and also for green city. So we have also an international partnership in Convent of Mayors with World Bank, with Green City Accord, and BERD. So this is our story, and it will be continue with other projects that are aimed to fulfill our major objectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Krina, and we'll have a second round where we dive into the bottlenecks and the barriers or the issues that continue to be pressing for the different stakeholders in the panel. Let me now turn to another city representative from Greece. This time we have with us Ioannis Palamidas from the municipality of Vouliagmeni. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, which is also often cited as an example of smart city, a city of just over 50,000 inhabitants that has, and that's the interesting story we found when we selected the speaker, come out as a result of a merger just over 10 years ago. And it's our understanding that digitalization has been used as a tool to facilitate that merger, and would be very keen to hear from you on what has driven that transition. Ioannis, you have the floor.
Thank you. My city, Varivula Vliachmeni, with a short name, is a mid-sized municipality in the region of Attica, located 15 kilometers from the center of Athens and 16 kilometers from Athens International Airport. It extends to 34 square kilometers and its population is 53 residents, but in the winter is 80,000 people, and in summer 110,000 people. It is a well-known tourist destination, domestic or foreign, with many VIP, 5 stars and 4-star hotels. We have a small fishing shelter in Varkiza, one small port for yachts in Vula, and one luxury Astir Marina, which opened May 2024 in Vouliagmeni. The Astir Marina wants to be sisters with the Monaco Marina. We have about 27 kilometers of coastline, and we believe that we are the best part of the Athenian Riviera. We are, but we believe it. Anyway, I will present you some of the steps we made through the years, through 2014. One of the first steps was to co-develop and employ a digital mobile application, Novoville, a free application for users of smartphones, which allows citizens to report in a simple way the problems they encounter in everyday life. We implemented a document management program to manage documents and reduce paper consumptions. In 2019, we began digitalizing all the city's paper archives with the help of a company. And we were the first city in Greece to provide civil engineers with all the necessary blueprints only in digital formats. We have a portal, www.gov.gr, only in Greek, of course, where citizens can find everything they want. We had 208,000 unique visitors in 2022 and 260,000 unique visitors in 2023. We have developed a fully digital environment for the provision of administrative services to citizens. We have 120 services and about 250 people per month are using this digital service. We're creating a tourist portal, visit Varivula Vliagmeni, of course, .gr, in Greek and English, where visitors, 10,000 unique visitors per month now, can find information about our city. We digitalized all the infrastructure of the city for use by civil protection services. We have earthquakes, as you know, and citizens with a full information where all the infrastructures and where the meeting points in an earthquake and everything. Also, we have created a map of the mountains area of the city where all the mountain roads have been mapped, and in case of fire, the fire brigade commander can have a clear picture of which road to use it or not. 2 years ago, we created an app, My City, My App. We designed and employed the City Mega app, where citizens, through their mobile phones, can easily make their daily petitions, link the news, everything. Aiming to have a fully smart city, we have installed a LoRaWAN network with 19 gateways all over the city, scattered throughout the city. And from at the end of the next month, we'll start to employ gradually, at the end, 10,000 sensors. The next month, we will install the first 1,000 smart bin sensors. Having as our main aim to assist the civil engineers and who are involved in the design and license of the houses in our city, we created a site map where they are going and download, and they have the opportunity to download all the blueprints of the areas, of the districts, and everything they want. They don't have to go to the municipality or everything. Mayor Grigoris Konstantelos took over the administration of the city in 2014, when Greece had huge economic problems, as you know. In this environment of state poverty, we tried with all our strength to go against the stream. Our vision is to be the first smart, green, and sustainable city in Greece by implementing citizen-centric solutions that embrace common logic, experience, and knowledge based on international standards. And primary motto is to do more with less, as you can understand. Our basic policy is the coexistence of balance of 3 factors of sustainability, named people, environment, and economy. What we want is to connect citizens, local businesses, and governance structures, and to ensure that all citizens and enterprises have the opportunity to benefit from the knowledge-based network and the technology infrastructure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, please do. Thank you very much for this intervention. I think some of the messages that you're conveying echo what Krima was saying in terms of the not only strategic vision, but also the staff and resources capacity and your user-centric approach for online servicing and public sector digitalization in particular is also similar to what we've seen in a number of countries. Thank you for that. We get back to you. Let us now turn to academia and back to Japan, and really thrilled to have with us Keta Nishiyama to give us a perspective also on this human-centered society aiming to deal with economic, social, and environmental issues through the digital transformation. Professor, over to you if you can elaborate on what your research has shown on that front.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on the smart city issue. If I may touch on briefly on my background, I'm now in academia, University of Tokyo, but I've been in the government for 35 years. So my experience tends to screw toward in the civil service. But anyway, in Japanese experience, we coined the term, as you may know, Society 5.0. Therefore, we try to look at the digital phenomena, including smart cities, as at the level of society rather than at the level of technology. And I think there is a background why we thought that way here, because I think it's based on our experiences through business or industry. And if I may point out one particular person behind this philosophy is, his name is Mr. Nakanishi, who was a head of Hitachi. He was a CEO of Hitachi, and he was also head of the Japanese Business Federation, Keidanren, but he unfortunately passed away due to the cancer several years ago. But his belief was, his experience was trying to build a railway system, actually. And he came up with the idea of distributed railway system rather than sort of centralized control of the system. So that makes him think to see the future society as more distributed and also participatory in a way. And at the same time, because he was, or we were looking at the business more from the angle of manufacturing. Therefore, we tried to figure out what will happen when we will be at the world of, we will arrive at the world of IoT, meaning cyber physical system or cyber physical combination. So that brings us to the philosophy of more distributed participatory approach to the future society. But although there is such a philosophy, and we're trying to realize these philosophies into reality through smart cities as well. But there are certain challenges here, as far as I see. Two challenges. First is we would like to make smart cities as participatory. But if we try to make the smart city participatory or distributed system, we need to, of course, change the existing governance system. Because after all, in my opinion, although we talk about smart cities, in my opinion, it's a digitalization of cities. So yes, these are smart cities, but it's cities after all. Therefore, in order to have smart cities, you need to transform the governance structure of the cities themselves. And it is sometimes difficult to do. And particularly if we are to utilize the digital-based services, it will be better to invite the participation of the citizens at the service level rather than, the different channels. Therefore, I think this is one of the challenges we face in Japan, how we can make the things participatory by transforming the current governance structure of cities or the prefectures. And the second challenge is we cannot make smart cities in isolation. We need a sort of shared digital public infrastructure. Otherwise, you have to build everything on their own, and it's not quite possible. And how can we make a common digital public infrastructure, shared public infrastructure, without centralizing them? That's another issue. So you need to have in my view, we need to have a certain kind of building blocks by which each smart city can pick whatever they like and make it sort of configurable in accordance with their needs, our needs. So that is not in existence at this moment in Japan. And so our government, I think, is trying to make an effort to build such a common digital platform so that it can serve both ways. It can share the common platform, but at the same time, that can respect the individual needs of individual local communities. That's a challenge and something we're continuing to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you also for pointing these two issues related to democracy and governance as it's a typical egg and chicken conversation. You know, do you need to revisit the governance ex ante so that there can be an uptake of technology for this user-centric approach, or is the technology the entry that can then help you rethink the governance for more participation? I think that's a very interesting conversation. And the scale issue you pointed, actually, we've seen an evolution of the terminology from smart cities to smart territories. And I think that goes to what you were saying about cities not being in isolation, and also how this connectivity can apply to the hinterlands and smart villages at large. And I think mid-sized cities in particular are very well positioned to unlock that potential. Thank you very much. Let me now turn to Ugo Valenti, who's the CEO of the Smart Cities World Expo. Everybody in this room knows the Smart Cities World Expo gathering in November, I think, right? The next big convening, and you've played a really prominent role in scaling up the narrative around smart cities and facilitating also the connection across different initiatives. And I'd be very keen to get your big picture on how you've seen these trends evolve. What is so specific to that granularity and those small and mid-sized cities that makes it different than the traditional usual suspects we hear when it comes to good stories? Thank you, Hugo, for being with us.
Thank you, Aziza, and thank you for the introduction of Smart City Expo, so I don't have to explain. As has been mentioned here, there is a huge difference between the different type of cities, and we were mentioning this with Cory prior to this, and is that the starting point of a city like Dakar, for instance, is completely different than the starting point of a city like Copenhagen or a starting point of a city like Bogota. So we need to take this into account, even though we're talking about smart cities as a whole. The objective of becoming smart is very simple, actually, is to give our citizens a better quality of life. So we need to take that into account when we are thinking about why should we become smart. It is also something that always strikes me, is that we tend to think about smart as digitalization, and not all solutions are digital. So let me put a very simple example from my city, Barcelona. Barcelona has transformed part of the cities using what we call superillas, super blocks, which is basically blocks of 3x3 streets in which the cars cannot enter there. There is no digital solution there, but what has been achieved is a huge improvement on the quality of life of the citizens on those areas, because we have regained the streets from the use of cars to the use of ourselves as citizens. Of course, there are other issues involved that I won't get into that. It is also true that there are plenty of digital solutions being applied worldwide. And we have a wonderful example here from Japan, but also digital solutions applied in China, even though the privacy concerns are different than the one that we apply in Europe. Or a country like Singapore that is applying IoT and technologies to improve, I believe it's the best example in the world on how to improve traffic efficiency and to provide the use of public transport. And also, last but not least, I believe we need to be discussing digitalization and applying smart solutions, taking into account sustainability at this core, and this is something that it's needed for all of us, and of course we need to take that into account also because from the citizen perspective, this is something that they expect from us to use digitalization, but also to improve sustainability.
Thank you very much, Hugo. And I understand our colleague from UNEP is a bit delayed, so we'll invite her to step in for the second round. I'd like to pause a little bit here, maybe, and invite those of you in the room or if you are online to intervene if you have any reaction or question to any of the speakers based on what you've heard so far, so that we do a little warm up before we go for a second round. I would have dozens of questions myself, but I would prefer that the stakeholders in the room take the floor. Is there anything you'd like to ask, including the mayor or any of the panelists that have taken the floor? And if you do, raise your flag this way. And meanwhile, maybe I will throw a question to the mayor myself, if the mayor agrees. I would like to ask you how you work with the national government on this Smart Cities initiative, because you know, one of the strong messages that this roundtable has been working around for the past 5 years is that national governments, even in highly decentralized contexts, have a critical role to play to facilitate the potential of smart cities and to also connect different initiatives, or to provide funding, or to support capacity development. There was a point made about training, skilling, to align also incentives to make sure that some of the decisions that go in the field of digitalization do not work against other policy goals, including in terms of environmental sustainability. So I would be very interested to know how, as a mayor in Japan, you are engaged in national level conversations or inspire national level policies, and how you benefit from this framework.
ご質問いただきましてありがとうございます。先ほど西山さんからも話がありましたけれども、国を挙げてデジタル化を進めようという流れになっています。その中で、我が市仙台市は国の交付金、も活用しながら進めさせていただいているものでして、本市のそれこそ強みというのは、東日本大震災の後、さまざまな経験をして、それを解決していくための手段をいろいろ考えた中で、このデジタル化というのが、やはり市民の皆様方の幸福につながっていくのだという意識を持って、このような事業をさせていただきたいので、お金を国の方から引っ張ってくるっていうんでしょうか、そういうことをさせていただきながら取り組んでいます。そして私どもの取り組みが国のレベルで考えてもとても先進的な取り組みであるということで、それを横展開するためにいろんなところで発表してもらいたいというようなことも言われていて、そういう意味では国と連携をしながら、そしてまた仙台市においてはさまざまなステークホルダーの方々と協調をしながら、また市民の皆様方のお考えもいろいろと聞きながら取り組んでいるというところです。そういう意味では市の行政の中でさまざまな施策がありますけれども、その基本と言いましょうか、これからの人口減少社会を見据えた上で、市民の皆様方が幸せに暮らしていくためには、やはりこの IoT を使う、デジタル化をしていく、AI を使っていく、これがやはり公共サービスを向上させていくことにもなりますし、ビジネスも向上させることにつながりますし、市民の皆様方の幸福度も高まると、このような意識で取り組んでいるところです。
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mayor. And I see a question here. I invite you to introduce yourself, please.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Julie Gertz, Director Board of Trade Organization. I want to make a question for the measure of City of Japan. It's super interesting, the systems of digitalization. Congratulations for that. I have been in Japan many times and I know that's working really well. My point is about the climate change. We know now you are in the moment in the world, the catastrophe is really dangerous and menaced every place in the world. So how you anticipated to control the situation? Because, well, when you have digitalization, you have data, you need to control, you need to connection. How you anticipated the systems for continue control the city in a situation of a catastrophe. I don't know if it's clear. So, thank you.
So you're talking about disaster risk prevention, right?
お答えいたします。仙台で先ほど私のキーノートスピーチの中でもご紹介させていただきましたけれども、2015年に国連の世界防災会議が開催をされて、全世界の皆さんたちが防災、減災、災害に強いまちづくりをするための仙台フレームワークが採択されました。その仙台フレームワークの中には、さまざまな防災・減災の目標が掲げられております。で、その目標に到達する上でも、デジタルというのは重要な役割を持っているんだと、このように思っています。そういう意味ではですね、世界の皆さんたちの異常気象ですとか、それからまた台風、あるいは地震、津波もそうだと思うんですけれども、そういうところにですね、仙台フレームワークに基づいたデジタル化というのも十分に考えられるだろうというふうに思っています。
Very good. Thank you very much. I don't see any other question for the time being. Do I see a flag? You do? Yeah, you do. Go ahead. You have a question. Go ahead, Oscar.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm Oscar Huerta from the OECD. Maybe you have heard of me with all those emails. I have a question. Following on what Professor Nishiyama was talking earlier on about the need to reform public governance for smart cities. He talked about the need to make it more a participatory process. And this is something we found regularly when we discuss about the smart cities, etc. So my question is for Vari Buliameni, Greece, and for Alva Julia, is how are you ensuring that these participatory processes take place in your cities? How do you engage people in a discussion on, for example, on how to leverage technologies? For example, even to how to use, to get access to their data, because sometimes people are very careful about sharing their data to the public sector, which is also a problem we found in many cities in Japan. I mean, how to use data to manage it in a more ethical way. Is there any way in which you are engaging the public, particularly what mechanisms are you using to do that?
So we'll go to Ioannis first, and then Krina, and then I'll take a question there, and we'll move to the second round. Go ahead, sir.
For us, we have data that can be shared and data that cannot be shared, of course. Okay, and at the other side, we are very lucky because our citizens are above average, having a degree or postgraduate. So it is very easy for us to make them to understand, to employ and use all the applications and all the stuff we created. So it was very easy to deploy all the digitalization in our city. We had no problems. And by the time, for example, they used the Novoville for the potholes and everything in the streets, and especially at the beginning in the neighborhood, and now they're going to the other districts because now they are feeling that they're part of all the city, not a part of one district.
Interesting. So you link the level of education with the level of trust and public acceptance of measures that you put in place, right? I mean, this is how you could. Krina?
Okay. It's the same thing. Some of the data can be shared, and the other not. Not only because there are regulations, national regulation and European regulation, but also because not all the data are digitalized. So in order to have a good strategy based on a good analysis, we have one of the target is to have very good data and very integrated in order to have good policies. Of course, the private sector, it's not so easy to get data for them because there are competition and other rules in there, but also it's about acceptance of the citizens, because we want to make life easier for the citizens, and we work with all the sectors, and also we have partnership with good NGOs that help us to increase the level of trust, and so we can have access to all the data in order to digitalize and make them integrated and also smart and have good policies.
Good, thank you very much. I think we have a question here. I'll invite you to introduce.
Thank you. I'm Corey Gray. I'm the president of Smart Cities Council. We're a global organisation involved in social and environmental and economic impact for communities. My question comes back to the point of trust between governments and citizens, which I think is one of the biggest challenges we face at the moment. If we look at issues of data privacy, for example, if we look at the unintended consequences of digitalisation, like all of the social impact of social media on youth and the age discussions now about how old people should be to use social media. The education point is very difficult to have complicated discussions with citizens if they don't have a certain level of knowledge of understanding of the topic. And we're dealing with, I think as Carl Sagan said, we're exquisitely reliant on science and technology in a world where hardly anyone understands it. What do you see as leaders of government, yourselves, but also in the room, as the way to improve the discourse between government and citizens to help form better policies about emerging technologies that we can work together, with the other part of the discussion being, as Hugo and I were saying, the gross domestic product of France is about 3.2 trillion US dollars, and that's the market value of NVIDIA. So we're getting this incredible disconnect between the size and influence of corporations with government as well. So a long introduction to a difficult question, but how do you, to be successful in government, you need to build trust and understanding with communities and policies that citizens feel represent their interests. And this area needs new thinking and new policies and a lot of debate. How do you go about facilitating that discussion?
Thank you very much. Maybe I'll invite our city representatives, adding to the question that actually levels of trust tend to be much higher in local politicians than they are in national politicians, which one would assume would facilitate the bridge, as you were saying. Maybe, Ioannis, would you like to say something about that?
From the beginning, we have an idea to give to the citizens everything we believe that they want. And by the time we added some other ideas from the citizens, so they are trusting us. The mayor is for the third time with North Korean percentages, 72, 80%. And we give them what we want because we are part of the city. So I think we're working very well with all the community. We take the complaints most of the time and we create it as a solved problems and to reply to them.
So proximity and demand-driven local policies, user-centric policies. Krina, do you also have a mayor elected for the third time at 70%? We're curious to get the recipes here.
We have a mayor from the beginning of the democracy, from 19 years and until 4 years ago. So the level of political trust, it was very, very high. But also the comfort was very, very high, because if you are for a long time there, you think that you have all the leverage, and you know everything about our citizens. But our society, it's in a continued process of development, and you have to have moments when you are question them, what do you really want? Because there are new generation, this is the mobility inside country or outside of the country, and you have to be smart, not only in technology, also in your behavior. So we had this moment of questions. We have local participation in budget participation. It is a sector that we are inquiring our citizens, what do you really want for your proximity? And we are developing projects for their proximity. And there are also projects that include this component of smart, because our city, it's growing and it's more and more younger.
Yeah, I like this point you're making about what we could call the complacency trap. This fact that sometimes you think the relationship is established and the needs are understood and the policies are in place, but that in the face of disruptions, you need to reassess constantly at local level, these needs and demands, and adapt also policies, even in context of high levels of trust. I think this is a very interesting point. Thank you very much. And I see no flag up, and let me know if you see something online or if we have a question from which I don't think is the case yet, but maybe we'll invite colleagues who are online to ask their questions through the Q&A function. And with this, we'll start, and that's a nice segue to our second part of the panel, and the Zoom now more on capacity issues and barriers at large that you see in your different contexts, research, but also cities, to further unlock the potential of smart cities. We heard a few things about having the right skill set, having the right people. It's not only about the infrastructure, it's also about the hard infrastructure, it's also about the soft infrastructure. We heard a few things about money here and there, acceptance and others. And maybe with this, I'd like to go back to Krina and invite you maybe to elaborate a bit more on what you see as the main barriers today, or where you're trying to put your priority at the municipal level. And you push the button. Great.
Okay. The most important barrier is the money, of course. Because I said we don't have a very large budget, and we are based on all the European opportunities or other opportunities to finance our smart projects. And also it's a good resource, all the partnership we have with the private sector, and with the other cities and training cities. So this is the most important barrier, the financement, and we have to look everywhere to put in reality our projects, our strategy. And also we have to train the administration to update them, and this is a big challenge, because the people, it is very difficult to change them and to accept the new technology, and we have to maintain a balance in their desire, their capacity, and the targets of the policy of our administration.
Thank you. So money and skills. Could you elaborate maybe a bit more on opportunities you see at the EU level? Because indeed, these EU funds, I think, can be also a source of inspiration for other cities that may not be aware. And this point that you're making about tight fiscal capacity and the fact you can't rely only on public spending and investment, but also need to tap into broader sources of financing, be it the EU or the private sector. Maybe can you elaborate a bit more on whether they help match the level of expectation that you have, they're easy to access, if you have other pieces of advice for your peers?
Yes, we have an entire division for this direction in order to elaborate and look for the financement. I work with around 20 people and also other stakeholders. We're looking for European programs. There are European programs in directly financing our country. There are operational program and that it's designed for our needs. And also there are program like European program like Horizon, Interreg, Urbact, and we are very present in these projects, and we have to invest in your people in order to have your skills to elaborate the programs, because you know your needs. Never a consultant can design a better project than you. So we have invested in our people.
Over to you, Ioannis, on the barriers, the main challenges, the pressing issues you're dealing with these days. No, I was saying over to you if you wish to elaborate a bit more on the main barriers that you are facing, the main challenges in your city today to further unlock the potential of digitalization.
We have solved everything. I'm joking anyway. We are very lucky because we are not a poor city in Greece. We are very rich. This makes things easier. As I told you before, our citizens are well educated. And because we have, me and the mayor, we have born there, we know all the problems from the beginning. And also because he's, at his profession, he's a pilot. He's flying a Boeing 767 now. And he's traveling all over the world. So we have the experiences that we need to solve the most of the problems, not everything, of course, but the most of the problems. And also because we are coming from the community, we are not, we're from down to the top, not top to the down. So we know the problems in a real way, not from listening or something like that. That's the only problem, the only barriers we have is the money, of course, as always. But we try to find solutions, and as I told you before, with doing more with less. And a lot of in-house jobs. As I told you before, we have mapping everything in my city. And I think we are the only one in Greece that has done that, because I always believe that the citizens should know where to go to an earthquake, because we have earthquakes, as you know, and how to gather and everything. So we are trying hard.
Thank you so much. Let me now turn back to you, Professor, and maybe invite you to share whether these barriers that have been flagged so far are those you also find in your research or your practical understanding of the smart cities landscape, and or if you see anything else coming up.
Thank you. I would like to touch on the issue, what you touched already. It's a comparison between larger and smaller cities. And maybe Japan is a peculiar situation, maybe, but we are, as you know, facing the problem of depopulation. So there's a stark difference between large cities, particularly in Tokyo, and other smaller municipalities. In Tokyo, yes, the population is stabilizing, and I'm University of Tokyo. So we have smart city in Tokyo, but it's more innovation focused, innovation oriented. But if you go to rural areas, that's more for survival. And they need to, or we need to have a digital solution in order to tackle the issue of depopulation. Depopulation means, of course, initially demand decreases, but at the same time, you have a less and less manpower. So it is difficult to sustain the basic services like transportation, hospitals, schoolings. These are the issues. And we, one of the companies which I'm advising have invested a certain number of local bus companies, and they invested in the AI technology called dynamic routing. The why it is necessary is that because traditionally the bus run according to the route, fixed route. But if you do that, although we have a very scarce number of drivers, often you find almost no passengers on the bus because it really doesn't reflect the timetable, really doesn't reflect the demand, real-time demand. So if you can introduce the IA technology such as dynamic routing, it can reflect the needs of the real-time passengers. If they would like to go to shopping, then route will go to shopping, and if elderly would like to go to hospitals, they change the route. That is happening, and but at the same time, because of the depopulation, I think there is a change of relationship between private sector and public sector, and at the same time, cross-sector relations, because after all, the mayors, including, of course, Mayor Corey, is doing their best, but at the same time, they are not directly, in many cases, they do not direct control of transportation or the hospitals. They're run by private sector, so to speak. So there has to be a certain new way of public-private partnership in order to achieve such digitalized-based system which can tackle the issues arising from depopulation. And at the same time, there's a close link between the different services, because in rural areas, the largest needs for the busing is for the elderly people to go to the hospital. Therefore, there has to be a link between how the hospital provides their services and how the transportation companies will provide the bus services. And so there may be need a new way of kind of scope of economy. But again, it's a slightly, different from the traditional market principle where, players come in and compete. So I think we need a new sort of thinking on this issue, how to make a balance between this sustainable basic services, and at the same time, of course, we need certain level of competition. Otherwise, the service level would deteriorate. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very topical point you're making. We tend to look at, basically saying a lot of these barriers or some of these barriers are outside the scope or the black box that the city administration can control or influence. And I think in the same way, we've long been talking about whether technological developments are compatible with the transition to a low carbon economy. This demographic decline is becoming topical in many countries, especially of growth. Global North economies, we see in OECD statistics that 20% of cities above 50,000 inhabitants globally are shrinking already and losing population today, and most of this is happening in the global north. So of course we hear from Japan and Korea, but also many European countries, and whether you can reverse that decline. aspects can be controlled, and immigration, and there's lots of debates around that, but in most cases you have to manage that decline. And I think the point you're making about technology, but also new forms of partnerships in that transition is extremely interesting. Thank you very much for that. And let me now close with Ugo. Back to you, Ugo, if you can elaborate a bit on what's coming from the global perspective on the main barriers, and if you find yourself in what has been flagged so far.
Well, the biggest barriers might have been mentioned already, but I would like to add regulation usually is a barrier. If you're talking about innovation and regulation, don't usually go hand in hand. Bureaucracy is another huge barrier. Also, cybersecurity, and privacy concerns are very important here. And on our societies, I would dare to say that the aging societies that we have are a barrier as well, in the sense that there's a bigger and every day will be bigger amount of population that they are not very natural to the use of technology. So that's a problem. I would also like to mention that we have been discussing about money and about bigger cities, no, so large scale cities, smaller scale cities. And sometimes we tend to think that with money everything is possible, but the reality usually is that these bigger size cities, they might have all the money in the world, but it's the scalability of the implementations is very difficult there. So we tend to see a lot of pilot projects going around in plenty of large cities all over the world, but no real large-scale implementations usually. No? So my colleague in Greece has mentioned properly, they have been able to scale up at the city level all their services. This is something that it's very hard to do on other type of cities. Let me put an example. A city like New York, they might have a lot of money, but they have legacy technology. The metro, the subway in New York, it was built in 120 years ago. If you want to do something on the metro, it's almost impossible because the metro cannot stop. And the technology that has been used there, it's very old. So it's not easy, even with all the resources and all the money in the world. It's not that easy to compile with the new technologies, regulations that we have today.
Thank you very much. Point taken. We have a good 10 minutes left, so we'll reopen the floor for questions or interventions, additions, if some of you wish to react to some of these messages that were shared on the main barriers, or add your experience as we've done it so far. If you're in the room, you just raise your flag and I'll give you the floor. Online, signal yourself as well if you wish to throw a question for any of the panelists. And meanwhile, maybe I'll ask one. I was very intrigued indeed by what Ioannis said about doing better with less, and also how to reconcile that with what you said, which is that money remains the prominent barrier and problem. And I was wondering how you have also, maybe here or also in other municipalities, factored in the goal of minimizing investment needs, how you can use also technology to do less investment in the typical large-scale gray infrastructure or costly types of infrastructure. I mean, I'm wondering, if you're able, for example, to see whether investment in smart lighting is reducing the costs on energy that are usually heavy on the municipal budgets that can then be rerouted to other. I mean, are you having this kind of assessment of the tangible benefits of smart technology and the implications for the fiscal capacity of the municipality, and how this money that is either saved or generated through those investments is used for the benefits of your cities? I mean, is it a sort of evaluation that you are doing? I think we're very interested at the OECD also on how this is all quantified. That's also a question of accountability to citizens, right?
Yes, we usually have in our feasibility documentation, technical documentation, we have very detailed analysis, financial analysis regarding the efficacy of the investments we make. We will also look for the cost reduction, and also we are looking for sensitivity, different criteria. So we are investments, for example, in public lighting, how we're gonna influence the social behavior of the citizens, something like that. We have very, very detailed, and we are asking all the documentation to have this kind of analysis. And yes, because we have already implemented this investment with this smart solution, we have already information about improvement of our investment. It is a very important direction. And also I wanted to add that we are it is very important, the cooperation with the private sector. So we are offering our citizens in order to test the pilot solution, to test the innovating solution and to implement pilot project. And the most interesting and most important solution we are integrated in future projects. Thank you.
Great. Any other panelist wishes to react to that, or sort of yes? So we have a question there, I think, from SDSN, and then meanwhile, maybe I'll ask the question that was raised online, and invite some of you to signal yourself if you're in this category of stakeholders. A statement made that there's lots of public sector speakers here, which is true. Also, a lot of civil society and academia. I'm curious if there's any representation from the private sector industry around, because they do have decades of experience developing digital twins and AI solutions to create these thriving communities. So if there's either online or in the room, please feel free to take the floor. And meanwhile, I'll give the floor to SDSN.
Thank you. My name is Sofia Kunish. I represent UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network. And I also have a question regarding money, and in particular the cycles of funding, because you, Ms. Green, you mentioned that you participate in various funding schemes from European Commission, like Horizon, Interreg, etc. And I was just wondering if you have any experience or tips in how to ensure continuity of action after these projects end, because we know they tend to last for 4 years or something like that, and then it's always the question of how do we keep the action when the money finishes. Do you have any experience in that? Thank you.
We are going in this project in order to find the solution and the project that it's good for the city, and we are very interested to keep it. So we are investing for this durability, sustainability of the solution we develop in the Horizon and the other project. As I said, we are integrating in our local projects, and yes, we are, because also it is we have to do this, but we are interested to do this.
Thank you. I'll give the floor first, unless it's on this specifically. Otherwise, I go to Brazil first, and then over to you. If you can raise your flag so I see your institution. And going back to the question earlier about the private sector, I see that MasterCard has not arrived there, but we have MEDEF with us. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but if there's anything you wish to share about how your members are steering that conversation on smart cities, you're welcome to take the floor as well. Feel free to raise your flag. Over to Brazil.
Well, thank you. I'd like to address this question for Professor Nishiyama. He told us a little bit about the smart territories and how to build up solutions regarding building blocks for each city or each region, and then those blocks has to be configurable for their needs. So I'd like to listen a little bit more, if you could elaborate, because back in Brazil and the state of São Paulo, we represent 30% of Brazil's GDP, but we do concentrate 82% in only 4 regions inside our state. But by taking 645 different cities that we have 150 that has less than 5,000 people. So we have so many diversity regarding their characteristics. So I would like to listen a little bit more about how you see those blocks, as you mentioned.
Thank you. I think one of the good examples, not actually in Japan, unfortunately, but what I see is what happens in COVID-19, because the countries, including Japan, was instructed to introduce a management system of the antivirus, drugs, and many countries or many municipalities are trying to develop such a system utilizing building blocks, because there is no such thing as COVID-19 system. It existed before COVID-19, but in order to have a COVID-19 management system, you can break down into the ID or registration and recording. And if you have such kind of building blocks at national level or even international level, you can sort of exchange these building blocks and utilizing them to come up with the new system. And actually, at least what I heard from maybe you better directly ask the people in India, but what I learned from the experience of India is that they utilize actually the system of registration or credential they used in the educational system turned into COVID-19 system, because after all, it's a credential system. In education system, of course, they use them as a sort of certifying whether you graduate a high school, university or not. But in COVID-19 system, you need to certify whether you actually received the shot twice or 3 times. But essentially, the system is the same. Therefore, I think there should be an opportunity, a window of opportunity to have such a system, particularly in the needs for the local communities, while they can sort of use as a configurable system so that it can meet the demands of the individual communities.
Yeah, very interesting, Professor. Actually, in the first phase of the pandemic, we had mapped policy responses from across 100 cities in OECD countries to see how they got organized, to identify, the challenges to support directly the populations. And we could actually figure out that those that had robust IT infrastructure in place and online servicing culture and practices were much better equipped actually in the first phases of the lockdown than those that did not. I think this sort of preparedness and how this came with a tradition of leveraging technology was a very good eye-opener. Thank you very much. I think we have a last question here. Mm-hmm. Give you the floor, and then maybe we'll start.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Marlene Damrau, and I'm representing the city of Gelsenkirchen here. So as we are talking about barriers, I think we all know this one particular barrier that is called silo thinking. This is a very heavy problem for us in one of the middle-sized cities in Germany. We have departments that we work very well with, and then, so I work for the digitalization department actually. And we have other departments that are traditionally not so easy to reach. And my hypothesis is actually that as long as we see digitalization as a purpose in itself, we will continue to have difficulties to reach certain, actors on the local level. And I always compare a city with a ship that is really large and that has many different engines. And these engines sometimes don't communicate with each other. And I suppose that in Japan, so this is my question to the mayor of Sendai, when you had suddenly a common purpose, which was about reducing the risk to get hit by a tsunami again, you very easily overcame these silos So my question is that true, and how did you manage it actually on a very practical level?
ご質問ありがとうございます。同じ目的を持つ、共通の目的を持つというのは本当に重要なことだと思っております。で、先ほど来ファイナンスの話ですとか、民間企業の皆様方の取り組みについても議論が少しありましたけれども、私どもの仙台市において取り組んでいる、先ほど診療カーの話をさせていただきましたが、フロンティア協議会といって、民間企業40、ごめんなさい。60ですね。60社を超える方々が参加してくださってるんです。で、この皆さんたちも、もちろん自分たちの仕事により良いような方向に持っていきたいという、商売ですから、儲かった方がいいというふうに思っているのかと思いますと、決してそういうことではないんですね。やはり社会貢献を進めたいという企業も多くなっている。そこに新たな研究機関のニーズ、シーズでしょうか。それと市民の要望というのがものすごい形、うまくマッチングしているんだというふうに思います。それで本市としてもこのような取り組みができてきたということで、大変興味深い、私自身もここまでよくできているなというふうに自慢をさせていただこうというふうに思っています。で、先ほどのちょっと質問ですが、共通の目的をどのように共有させるかですけれども、これも折に触れて市民の皆様方に広報活動やご意見を伺うというような、そういうシステムを作っております。これも機能しているんだろうというふうに思っています。ちょっと答えになったかどうか自信がありませんけれども。
Thank you very much, Mayor. And indeed, it's interesting to see how industry can be an external driver also to public sector coordination and alignment. I think in that case, the opportunity that this is raising to connect the dots, and very much agree with what you said, actually, and a lot of what we say also, that digitalization is a means to an end, and that it's that end precisely that not breaks the silos. We need silos. They're also synonymous of competence, expertise, capacity, but bridge the silos in a city administration. And I see MEDEF International is raising the floor, so thank you for that. I give you the floor maybe to react to the online question, and then we'll wrap up and transition to the break.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, perfect. So thank you very much. It's been very, very instructive for me to listen to all of your contributions regarding the implementation of digitalization solutions at city level and broader level. I thank really the Mayor of Sendai for her comments about how do you say, building partnerships with the private sector at the local level, using all the resources at your disposal, of course, public and private. It is very important to companies. I represent today French companies from the Sustainable City Task Force, which is a group of about 250 French companies which are involved in the, let's say, the sustainable city value chain, ranging from conception to implementation, operation of infrastructure and urban services. And today I just wanted to share this quick point to build up on the point of the Mayor of Sendai, and that some of you, of course, made here, is that companies in MEDEF International are interested to build the capacity of cities to develop some projects, of course, always making the most with the resources available. And that it's always interesting, and that's what we do at MEDEF International, putting in relation public actors and private actors to be at the beginning of a project, meaning to be in the room with financing actors and public decision makers to be able to develop the best project for a specific context, and not in the idea to replicate projects in different contexts, which maybe not pertinent at all. So thank you very much for your comments, and yes, I guess that concludes this first point for today. And thank you for your invitation to speak.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And thank you all. I think you all deserve a big round of applause. fascinating Kickstarter for today. So we'll now swiftly shift to the break. We'll have a good half an hour break. But before that, and before you do anything, including getting coffee, I'll invite you all to join us in the stairs. We'll follow the great team over there to take a family photo, and then you will be free for 20 minutes to do whatever you need to do. We're all back here at 11:15, and this is also a break for colleagues online. See you in a bit. Thank you.